He was a great football player, and he is a great Wisconsinite.
Yeah, he is. He's sitting in the middle of the woods. Let's do this. Dave Krieg on Inside Wisconsin.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, Rolltech, Festival Foods, Capital Credit Union, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, American Family Insurance, Miller Lite, and Aaron's Company.
All right, J.A., this is the first time this has happened. That is NFL veteran Dave Krieg, Wisconsin boy, 19 seasons. We're going to let him talk in a second, but this happened this morning. I'm getting ready for the day. It's 8:25. My phone rings, and it is a Phoenix number.
Yep.
We're talking to Dave Krieg today. He lives in Phoenix. I answer, and me and Dave Krieg are now hunting best friends. I'm going to go to his place on Monday.
Yes. I
can't make it up.
That's true story.
Good. You guys can have it. And after you shoot something or catch something and you dress it out and you got it all packed, just send me a little.
Let me just say something to hunting people, because I know a lot of gals that don't like hunting, because I live in Phoenix and I've lived in Seattle and they don't know nothing about it. But the tradition here in Wisconsin is people go out and hunt. But I don't think people just go out. Yeah, they want to get some meat for their freezer. I get it. But it's generational. I mean, when you go to a game, there's no other stadium when you go to the game and they're wearing orange, right? And their team colors are green and yellow. So it's a tradition here. And I think that people, they love the opportunity to be able to, they appreciate the deer and all that stuff. It's not just about killing animals, but it's a generational family thing, and it's part of Wisconsin.
You're correct. I've never seen a game in Seattle where all the 12s are decked out in their blaze
I know,
orange.
is that crazy? I played in a lot of stadiums, and I'll tell you what, the other thing too, I came to a game, I'm getting off track. I came to a game before COVID. The Seahawks played the Packers in Lambeau, and I was able to talk to Russ Ball, who is now he does the contracts and all that, the money stuff, and I got a hold of somebody in Seattle, and I got two of my friends, Lance Lyon and Max Muzzanowski, onto the sideline. But I got out of the car and I'm wearing my Seahawks stuff, and they go, "Are you lost?" I didn't even take 2 steps, and they said, "Are you lost?" I'm like, "No, I'm looking for my friends. I used to play." I didn't even say I'm Dave Krieg. I used to play. I knew I was in the wrong area, and I found my friends, but I got them on the field. It was such a cool thing just to get your high school buddies on the field of a playoff game that they, back watching Bart Starr, that, John, about Willie Davis, Willie Wood, all that stuff. Anyway, carry on with the show.
All right, very good. I'm going to interject this small personal anecdote about Russ Ball. When I ran at the University of Missouri, he was in charge of the weight rooms.
Yep.
He was the strength and conditioning coach at Mizzou when I was running there.
So him and Dave, listen, no, let's go with that. So Dave Redding, when I was in Kansas City, Dave Redding and Russ Ball, I went there in my 12th year, and they got me into strength and conditioning. I'm lifting weights with John Alt and Zott and all these big lifters, and it gave me another 7 years thanks to Russ Ball and Dave Redding. I always tell them that.
So real quick, just tell the people where you are right now, because quite frankly, that's a heck of a shot, Trev. Give them the wide shot, and let's just look.
Beautiful.
I'm jealous.
So I took a good 25 minutes, kind of like looking for a stand location in the woods, and I put my camera position so you can see the Wisconsin River. My cousin Mike Hack got me a place that the Sand Valley golfers play on, and I bought some land up here. And now I'm on the Wisconsin River, right next to Nakusa, around the Wisconsin Rapids area, and it's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
Do I need 19 years in the NFL and that pension to afford that place? Or
no, you have to have a cousin. You have to have a good cousin.
Okay.
You have to have a good cousin. He works for Central Wisconsin Homes Incorporated and Cranberry Creek Game Birds. So not only did I release 400 muskies the other day in here, and I told the lady I've touched more muskies than I've ever caught, but I released them for the Muskie Club, Consolidated Muskie Club. But at his game farm, we had 506 Hungarian partridge. We had to net them and put them into crates, and then he sends them off to South Dakota. So that's the beneficiary of it. It's not because of NFL stuff, I don't think.
Wow.
Yeah, we got to ship them because they can't be trusted to fly in their own.
I hear you. That's a good one. Kenny Mayne. That's what he would say too.
So speaking of Kenny and Trevor's introduction, when was the last time you were introduced by Trevor that wasn't followed by Dave Krieg from Tiny Milton College? Like
right.
That be like that was your last name throughout your entire NFL career.
I didn't really think too much about it, but I'm kind of proud of it. Like we were talking earlier, I got to meet guys like John Elway and Dan Marino and University of Pittsburgh and Stanford and other quarterbacks like Sean Salisbury went to USC. And I keep thinking, well, if you guys can't beat me out, I went to Tiny Milton College. What does that make you all? But it's cool though, John. I'm telling you, I went to Milton College. I made it in the NFL. I mean, I wouldn't want it any other way, especially the way it turned out. I love it.
So take us through that. How does a guy come out of an NAIA school and find his way? First off, let's forget trying to get the starting job away from Jim Jones. How do you just find your way onto a roster?
Right. So like I was telling Trevor earlier, where I bought this land is real close to where I was born. I'm 40 minutes from where I was born. Auburndale is only maybe 15 miles from here. I went first, second, and third grade. And then Rothschild is only like 40 minutes away. I played high school at DC Everest. And I was honorable mention defensive back. We ran the Power I. The Wisconsin Valley Conference was a running conference, all defense. So I get done with high school, and it's about July 4th, and my dad says, I'm at the paper mill. Where else your paper mill? Thinking I'm going to work here like everybody else does. And he goes, are you thinking about college? So I went to Milton for 4 years. I was a 7th-string quarterback at Milton. And then by my freshman year, by like the 5th, 6th, 7th game, they started me. And I got to play 4 years. And then Rudy knew a guy in Seattle, one guy. It's like that Eminem song. I had one chance, one opportunity. I knew one guy, and I flew to Seattle. I never flew on a plane before. And I'm 21 years old, flew on a plane to minicamp, came back, went to training camp. And then I told my dad, I said, guess what? They gave me a name on the back of my jersey, and I got the best seat in the house, I told him. So I made it.
I love that.
I was 7th string in Seattle. I was 7th string in Seattle, too. That was pretty cool.
How the hell? 7 strings? I didn't know that was a thing. I mean, we don't even.
Yeah, back then they had bigger rosters. We played a lot more preseason games, and I got the mop-up duty. You commentators were talking about that, John. Oh, you see a guy come in the fourth quarter. You don't imagine how scared he is. He's been sitting there for 3 quarters watching these guys, Bill Baumhauer and the Bo Campers, beat the hell out of each other. And you're seeing guys bigger than you've ever seen in your life, running faster than you've ever. And now you get to go in and try to prove yourself. I was scared out of my mind. That fourth quarter, when those guys go in there, that's like they're playing the Super Bowl, and they can't make a mistake, And I fortunately threw some passes, and they went to the right guys. And then the second year, after flying in a plane for maybe 10 times, I'm playing my first start against the New York Sack Exchange with Mark Gastineau and Joe Klecko. So, and now here I am sitting in the backyard of a beautiful place, whispering pines on the Wisconsin River.
That's a pretty
real life.
Distance.
Yeah, this is real life.
Could you have made it today, not because of your ability, but under limited rosters, because they only bring in like 90 or whatever, and only 3 preseason games? If you were in the same situation today, is the opportunity there for Dave Krieg to make a roster?
No, it's a lot less. Now, Trey Lance is a outlier because he did come from a small college, but that's not even as small as I came from. But today with, it's how I've watched these specialist camps for quarterbacks and specialist this. And if you're not the top elite, then you almost feel less than, because you're not you feel like Kirk Cousins, John, like we were talking about. You don't feel as good as those other guys, but eventually as you grow, you might have a chance to play. But they just go on potential basically right now. And analytics, I guess.
Yep.
So you're on your way to Seattle. Tiny Milton College, the now defunct, right? That's what everybody always says.
Another good one, yeah. Tiny and now defunct. I don't even know what defunct was. I still don't look at.
So, did you feel at home in Seattle? Because I've been to Seattle once, and it kind of feels like Wisconsin. There's a lot of what's behind you.
Seattle, yes, it's very, very similar. I mean, I know they say liberal and all that because of downtown Seattle, but you go to the eastern mountains, east of the Cascades, and you got people that are farmers, granaries. I mean, when I practiced at Eastern Washington University, those fields were immaculate. Wheat fields were all around you. They didn't have many trees, but they all love the Seahawks and they love their football. So those people, they're like Wisconsin people, and Seattle loves especially when they're winning. They're great fans, and it's very similar to Wisconsin. Yeah, it's good people.
Yeah.
You won there a lot, right? I mean, when Chuck Knox takes over, he's kind of the guy that I think elevated you into that. But you guys were really good.
I got to tell you, Johnny, you're talking about you were at Missouri and you had these jobs. There's so much luck involved in being at the right place at the right time. And when Chuck first came there after we let go of Jack Patera, God rest his soul, he's a good dude. Then Chuck came in and he had a history of winning and hit your belt up and working hard, wishing won't. And hard man comes hard down a hard road. This Pittsburgh coal mining guy, he brought this attitude in there that we were going to win. And then Reggie McKenzie looked at the schedule and said, well, we're going to beat this team. Like we were just, 7-9 the year before. And Chuck came in there. He started Jim. Then halfway through the season, put me in. And then we went to the dang AFC championship, John, So now I've flown on a plane maybe 25 times, and I'm playing against Dan Marino in in an AFC game. We lost to the Raiders in the AFC Championship game. I mean, it was just amazing. Chuck Knox was a great coach. That's a Hall of Fame guy right there too. 3 different teams he's taken to championship games, right? 3 different teams. That's amazing.
Jeez. And he was sort of really, his MO was right ground chuck. He liked to run it right. Yet he lets you throw it around pretty good. I don't know if it was because of you or Largent or what.
No, John.
His MO a little.
Yes, you remember we had Kurt Warner, and I'll tell you what, I played with Barry Sanders, I played with Marcus Allen, I played with other fast backs, but Kurt Warner from Penn State, when I handed off to him the very first time, I was a backup quarterback, but I got a chance, and it's like he took my arm. From the I formation to get that much speed and that much power, he wasn't even looking at me. His eyes were like this. So Kurt Warner was our running back in '83. He was AFC Rookie of the Year, probably should have been the MVP of the he carried our team. Our defense was good and getting better. And then Kurt got hurt the second year. First game of the season, makes a cut, blows out his knee. So now we start throwing around. Now I go to the Pro Bowl. So '85, they say we're supposed to go to the Super Bowl, and we go 8-8. We were 8-8, John. That was so depressing. But Chuck was able to adapt. He was very able to adapt.
So you spent a lot of years in Seattle, and you were telling me earlier that you really loved football from watching the Packers as a kid, right? Lombardi and just that era.
Yes.
How did you feel the first time you walked into Lambeau Field as a professional football player?
Trevor, I cannot tell you. I still get goosebumps sitting there watching a black and white TV in Rothschilds, a little bit in Auburndale, with the antennas and the tinfoil, making sure the game would come in good. And then my dad would yell at the quarterback like everybody else does. It's all the quarterback's fault. But I would see the receivers and running backs and the blocking. And I loved watching Vince Lombardi. I've read all the books about him and how those players listened and loved that man. He worked them to death. And then he got them to believe in themselves and the confidence in that little town in Green Bay. And he was a New York guy. 7 blocks of granite, he was one of them. He made sure everybody knew that. And he came in here and got Willie Wood, Willie Davis, Herb Adderley, one of the best athletes to ever play football, played at Green Bay. I think he was at Michigan State. He was an offensive guy, and then he was a defensive player, one of the best athletes I've ever seen play. And I fell in love with football, and I still love the Packers and all that still. It's amazing what that does to you, man.
So you've got a job to do, but when you walk down onto that field,
yeah. I didn't even talk.
Did you take a minute and at least absorb some of that?
Probably driving into it, but I got to tell you, when you're playing in a game, and yes, a lot of my high school and college buddies were there, and I got to see them, and we won. I think we played at County Stadium the first time. Was the first time I played the Packers, and going into Lambeau the second time was like walking into you got invited to the Academy Awards or something that's really big. That's a once in a lifetime thing, but you got to focus in on what you're doing. And that quickly happens once you get hit out there. You don't think about your buddies up there, that they're in the highest seats because you're the visiting team, and they tell you that afterwards. But you focus on the game. But I valued playing there. I played there with Detroit. I played there with Chicago, got whooped twice when I was with Chicago by the Packers. I know that rivalry well.
Yep. So I asked John this when what's that?
I said, you grew up with the Packers. How hard was it to put on a Bears jersey?
Yeah, I had some of my buddies. John Ogiba came down, and I said, hey, you want to come down? Then we'll go deer hunting. I lived in Libertyville, which is in the northern corner of the northern end of Illinois, and I also got a Wisconsin tag. So on Tuesdays, I would go hunt a little bit and then go, and maybe Saturday mornings. And he shot a doe down there, actually. But my buddies, they kind of, I don't know who they cheered for up in the stands. I think they cheered for me. That was different. That was different.
Yeah, I would imagine being a Wisconsin boy and being a Packer fan and then landing in Chicago.
I always wanted to be a Packer. Jim McMahon screwed that up. He knew Mike Holmgren from Brigham Young, and he was with the Browns at the time. And I guess before the game, he went up to Mike Holmgren and said, you got to get me out of there and get me over here. And you don't have many connections when you're from Milton. There's not a lot of coaches in the NFL that you can go talk to and do that. And I would have come there and played backup quarterback. I would have carried 2 clipboards, and I would have played for just $1,000 a game. Honest to God, even in my 15th year, I would have loved to have done that.
Yeah. Wow. So you were telling me earlier that you landed at Milton because you didn't get any other looks coming out of DC Everest, and you went to UW Platteville and worked out with the Bears when you were a kid.
And no. What happened was after high school. Whitewater did have me come down on a Sunday. Who's there on a Sunday? Bruce Bukowski was a former lineman from Everest. So I went to Whitewater for one visit on a Sunday, went there and came back, went to Milton. But then when I became an NFL pro with the Chiefs, we practiced in UW River Falls. Now I'm sitting to myself, they had me on the fire truck, Carl Peterson, Marty Schottenheimer, you're from Wisconsin, you sit on the fire truck, which I think was just a bunch of BS. But I'm sitting on the fire truck and I'm waving to people like, what the hell, I'm just here to play football. But I got to practice on their game field that they never recruited me for in college. And then I went down to Platteville and practice on their home field too. And I'm like, these guys didn't recruit me. And it's so weird. I'm playing NFL football, I'm practicing on your home field. I thought how karma's different, isn't it? But I'll tell you this, if I'd have gone to a school, even a big one like that, I was still young, maturity wise and physically, I wasn't ready yet for that. So I think Milton ideally was the right place for me, believe it or not. Milton, I love it. I still talk to Rudy. I still talk to, Dale Race. I still talk to Kevin Gels, Tim Casey, Kevin DeKester lives in Taos, New Mexico. All my Milton guys, we get together, play some golf in the summer. We're getting a little bit older, but we love being that we all went to Milton College. And my high school buddies are just up the road. So I'm back home and I love it.
Who do we play if I'm in Milton? What am I playing? Am I playing like Beloit or Co or Cardinals?
You're playing Lakeland. You're playing Ripon. You're playing Maranatha. You're playing University of Chicago. Those are some smart people, not good football players, but very smart. We played Eureka, which is northeastern Illinois, where Ronald Reagan went to college. And then we played UW Stevens Point twice. We lost both times, but it was the fourth quarter. They just wore us down. We only had 50 guys on our team, and they had like 125 on the sideline.
People ask me all the time what my favorite episode is, J.A. We're 15 minutes into this. This is my favorite episode. We've only just begun. This guy's in the middle of the woods. This is phenomenal. Let's take a break. We're going to come back. Dave Krieg, 19 seasons. You can take the boy out of Wisconsin, but clearly you cannot take the Wisconsin out of the boy. We're back in a bit. Inside Wisconsin.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, Rolltech, Festival Foods, Capital Credit Union, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, American Family Insurance, Miller Lite, and Aaron's Company.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube. Leave a review. Smash the like button. Just get with us.